Sometimes it takes one bold move to redefine an entire sport. For LaMelo Ball, it wasn't just one move, it was an entire series of risk-laden decisions that rewrote the rules of how to become a basketball superstar. He was the 15-year-old high school sensation, burying shots from midcourt and pouring in 92 points like it was nothing. He was the youngest American professional hooper in the world, braving a frosty Lithuanian winter and a dizzying reality show schedule. He survived the controversies surrounding an untested basketball league that his father launched out of thin air, and he did all this without losing that magnetic smile. Today, LaMelo Ball stands among the NBA's most electrifying players, rocking all-star credentials and a game unlike anything we've witnessed before. But how did he climb from backyard hoop dreams to center stage, especially under the blinding spotlight of LaVar Ball's relentless ambition? Stick around, because we're about to unveil the entire story. Secrets, twists, jaw-dropping stats, and all. LaMelo Ball's journey began the moment he could walk. Raised in a household where basketball was the undisputed religion, Melo was never just another kid dribbling a toy ball on the driveway. His father, LaVar, had a grand vision before Melo was even born. Produced 3 sons who would revolutionize the game, each dominating at the highest level. It sounded outlandish, maybe even impossible, but for the Ball family, big dreams weren't just welcome, they were mandatory. His mother, Tina, played college basketball and understood the grit required to excel. Together, LaVar and Tina believed that if they immersed their boys, Lonzo, LiAngelo, and LaMelo, in constant competition, it could mold them into unstoppable forces. And so, from the time LaMelo was 4, he was in the backyard challenging his older brothers. This toddler had no space to be timid. Every missed shot was met with fatherly tough love. Every practice was a race to outdo the older kids. If you've ever seen LaMelo's fearlessness on the court, it was forged right there, in those scorching summer workouts and no mercy pickup games. Even when adversity hit, the message was clear: either tough it out or find a different path. There was no plan B. Ball kids were destined for basketball glory. End of story. This unbending mindset would later fuel Melo's refusal to fold under pressure. Whether it was a massive TV audience or a skeptical group of overseas fans chanting in another language, Melo had the grit to keep going. That unstoppable ambition set the stage for a teenage phenomenon who was soon to erupt onto the national spotlight in a way we'd never seen before. By the time LaMelo enrolled at Chino Hills High School in California, he was more than prepared for the challenge. At just 13 years old, he was deemed ready to skip a grade and join his older brothers on the varsity squad. Skeptics scoffed. How could a kid so young handle that level of competition? Then came Melo's first game. He dropped 27 points, sank 5 threes, and had the crowd gasping at his fearless shot selection. Traditional basketball wisdom warns against launching from 30 feet, but Melo's logic was different. If he'd practiced it 1,000 times, then it wasn't a bad shot. It wasn't long before the entire Chino Hills squad, anchored by Lonzo, LiAngelo, and LaMelo, became a high-scoring juggernaut. They rattled off an undefeated 35-0 season, snatched a state title, and annihilated their opponents by an average of 28 points per game. Fans piled into gyms to witness the carnival of full-court passes, deep-range bombs, and unstoppable fast breaks. Opposing teams were helpless. It was as if the Warriors' pace and space ethos invaded high school hoops, except even more frenetic. Then, in a game that changed Melo's life, he posted a jaw-dropping 92 points against Los Osos High School. Word spread like wildfire. SportsCenter led with highlights of this skinny sophomore pulling up from anywhere and torching defenders. Critics complained he was stat-chasing. Traditionalists called it a disgrace to fundamental basketball, but it was mesmerizing showmanship. By age 15, he was already more popular than most NCAA standouts, not to mention half of the NBA's bench warmers. This hype ballooned thanks to LaVar Ball's boisterous media presence. He was bold enough to declare that his eldest son, Lonzo, was already better than Stephen Curry, the reigning MVP. He tossed out outlandish remarks about beating Michael Jordan in a one-on-one game. Through it all, LaMelo mostly stayed quiet, weaving through defenders as cameras followed his every move. The Ball family had turned into a traveling circus, but fans couldn't peel their eyes away. Melo's highlight reel was always a click away from going viral again. Just when it seemed impossible to top the swirl of attention around LaMelo's high school heroics, LaVar Ball made another dramatic pivot. He announced LaMelo would be pulled out of Chino Hills at just 16. 2013, essentially ending his standard high school experience. The reason? LaVar was dissatisfied with the coaching staff, who he claimed didn't trust Melo's special gifts. While many chalked it up to yet another over-the-top publicity stunt, there was no going back. LaVar signed both Melo and his middle brother, LiAngelo, to professional contracts in Lithuania. Suddenly, the internet was ablaze with images of a teen phenom and a teen reality star trudging through the freezing Lithuanian countryside. Melo was no longer scoring 92 points in front of roaring American crowds. He was now suiting up for BC Prienai, a team based in a small town of about 10,000 people. Hardly anyone spoke English. Practices were grueling. The style of play was more physical and structured, which clashed with Melo's wide-open run-and-gun approach. Worse yet, local fans and coaches had little interest in feeding the Big Baller brand hype machine. They wanted wins, and that was the rub. LaVar had made a business deal with the struggling team, ensuring Big Baller brand sponsorship for certain exhibition games. Melo got to run wild in those exhibitions, averaging around 30 points against subpar competition. But in actual league matchups against grown men, former EuroLeague prospects, and seasoned veterans, Melo's numbers dipped, his shooting percentages tanked, his minutes were limited, and his father routinely clashed with the head coach. It was the first time in Melo's career he wasn't free to play his style. Outside the gym, the culture shock was immense. Frigid weather, strange foods, no Hollywood glitz or nightly hype reels. Despite it all, Melo refused to complain. He stayed locked in on basketball, learning valuable lessons in resilience. People in the local community described him as polite and earnest, a stark contrast to the bombast swirling around Big Baller brand. Ultimately, the Lithuanian experiment ended by late spring. The Ball family departed on less than amicable terms, leaving behind a wave of headlines about whether LaVar was jeopardizing his younger son's future. Yet for LaMelo, the experience carved out a layer of toughness and perspective many young players never gain. If you thought going pro in Lithuania was radical, the next phase in LaMelo's saga was even more out of left field. LaVar, never one to be stifled by conventional paths, launched his own basketball league, the Junior Basketball Association, or JBA. Marketed as an alternative to the NCAA, the JBA promised to pay high school graduates a modest salary and let them retain endorsement rights. In theory, it was a direct shot at the NCAA system. In practice, it turned into a chaotic scramble to field teams, secure venues, and attract fans. As the league's star attraction, LaMelo lit up the JBA scoreboard, but the overall level of play lagged behind NCAA Division I. Critics panned the league as a publicity stunt, seeing it as yet another stage for LaVar's big claims. Inside the lines, Melo was unstoppable, averaging triple-doubles at will, yet scouts questioned whether he was benefiting from competing against largely unknown talent. Still, the cameras kept rolling for the family reality show, Ball in the Family. Big Baller brand merchandise was front and center at every game. Then, almost as soon as it began, Melo's run in the JBA ended. After a quick championship run, he decided to return to an American high school for his senior season, this time at Spire Academy in Ohio. His arrival at Spire spurred renewed hype, but also new controversies. Many top schools refused to face a team hosting a player with prior professional experience. Undeterred, Melo adapted well, focusing on honing his pass-first instincts and enjoying the last slice of genuine high school camaraderie. Behind the scenes, the bigger issue loomed. Due to his pro stints in Lithuania and the JBA, Melo's NCAA eligibility was on life support. The next step in his path was already coming into focus. Without a legitimate chance at NCAA competition, LaMelo looked to the Australian NBL, a league that had successfully nurtured future NBA talents. Signing with the Illawarra Hawks was a power move, transforming the sleepy Australian city into a worldwide point of interest. From the second he landed, cameras flashed, fans crowded, and local reporters tried to decode the hype swirling around the new American teenager wearing the Hawks jersey. This time, it wasn't just about brand deals or reality shows. It was also about proving Melo could thrive in a legitimately competitive environment. The NBL featured rugged professionals unafraid of physical play. Early on, Melo's weaknesses came to light. He struggled on defense, sometimes losing track of his man or giving half-hearted contests. His shot selection selection, long criticized, was still iffy. He was known to launch from improbable distances without a second thought, and yet game by game, he improved. He refined his mechanics, turning that chest-level shot into something more consistent. His unstoppable flair and transition began translating into highlight assists. These glimpses of brilliance swayed NBA scouts who flew across the globe to see if LaVar's youngest son was the real deal. In 12 NBL games, LaMelo averaged nearly 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists per contest. Efficiency still needed work, but the raw talent was undeniable. Even seasoned NBA executives began buzzing that he might sneak into the top of the 2020 draft. He was an oversized point guard at 6 feet 7 inches with unstoppable open court instincts. He had the intangible it factor, a star presence that commanded attention even if he was just dribbling out the shot clock. Unfortunately, an injury cut his NBL run short. Still, the damage was done. LaMelo was now a consensus top 3 prospect, shedding all doubts that unorthodox routes could derail him. Leading up to the 2020 NBA draft, rumors flew about whether Melo could snag the first overall selection. Some scouts loved his playmaking genius, but questioned his defense and shooting. Others believed his star power alone made him a no-brainer. Ultimately, the Charlotte Hornets nabbed him at pick number 3, a dream scenario for a small market team in need of a franchise spark. Suddenly, Michael Jordan was his boss, fueling an endless swirl of jokes about LaVar's infamous one-on-one challenge to MJ. LaMelo's NBA debut did little to quiet doubters. He bricked every shot and finished scoreless in 16 minutes. Those who had slammed his experimental playing style felt vindicated, but it didn't take long for him to find his rhythm. Within weeks, Melo was racking up triple-doubles and dishing out "did you see that?" passes no one else even considered attempting. In less than half a season, he became the Hornets' starting point guard, orchestrating a high-tempo offense reminiscent of his early Chino Hills days. His rookie stat line, 15.7 points, 6.1 assists, nearly 6 rebounds, earned him Rookie of the Year honors. Forget the missed shots or occasional defensive missteps. Melo was injecting fun into a franchise that desperately craved star wattage. Even in the midst of LaVar's habit of chirping at coaches and analysts, Melo handled press conferences with unexpected poise. He was calm, playful, and disarmingly humble, stating he was just doing what I love. Fans around the league recognized that a new era had arrived. The era of LaMelo's brand of basketball, complete with no-look passes, casual half-court bombs, and a free-flowing show that only he could script. In his second NBA season, LaMelo took another massive leap. Extra reps in the offseason helped polish his jump shot, and he lifted his three-point percentage close to the 39% mark. He also built more chemistry with teammates like Miles Bridges and Terry Rozier, turning the Hornets into a surprisingly formidable squad on many nights. This leap led to Melo's first All-Star appearance, making him one of the youngest players ever to earn that honor. The once ridiculed child star of the Ball family reality show was now a legitimate star in the world's top basketball league. But the journey forward wasn't all smooth. Repeated injuries, particularly to his ankles and wrists, started sidelining Melo for long stretches. Each time he bounced back, fans and analysts were in awe of his unstoppable energy and relentless desire to entertain. Yet health issues eventually derailed Charlotte's playoff hopes. Critics argued that durability might become Melo's Achilles heel if he didn't adjust his style, or if the Hornets training staff couldn't manage his heavier workload. Despite those setbacks, his creativity never faltered. Deep passes over double teams, behind-the-back feeds in traffic, and fearless drives against shot-blocking behemoths showed that Melo's confidence was unshakable. He also became more vocal as a leader, setting the pace in the locker room. Teammates praised his fun-loving approach, while acknowledging he's all business when the ball goes up. If anything, those injury pauses only deepened the mystique around him. Every time he returned, fans would hold their breath, waiting for that next highlight pass that would break the internet. Looking at LaMelo Ball's trajectory, it's fair to say he's far from done shocking the world. Now 6 feet 7 inches, still only in his early 20s, Melo has the chance to transform the Charlotte Hornets from perennial underdogs to must-see TV. Even with injuries interrupting the flow, glimpses of his improved mid-range game and strong stronger finishes at the rim point to a superstar waiting to fully bloom. When he's locked in, he's an offensive orchestrator who sees angles on the floor like a chess grandmaster. Few can match his flair for the dramatic, but behind that flair stands a foundation of relentless practice. Team circumstances might hold him back, or perhaps the Hornets front office eventually builds a more complete roster around him. Only time will tell. Another rumor swirling through NBA circles is the potential for bigger markets to lure him away once his contract allows, leading some to wonder if we'll see Melo in a franchise with deeper pockets and a larger media footprint. Then again, perhaps Charlotte will remain his domain. After all, he's already the face of that franchise, especially after Michael Jordan's decision to sell the majority stake in the team. The stage is set for LaMelo to carve out his own legend without living in anyone's shadow. Above all, one thing is certain: underestimating Melo is a fool's errand. From day one, critics said his shot was broken, he didn't care about defense, or that his father's theatrics would overshadow him. Yet he's become everything LaVar boasted about: a phenomenal passer, a fearless shooter, and an unselfish leader with a flair for entertaining. He's even proven to be more reserved and level-headed in interviews than his bombastic dad. Could he one day surpass the hype and become the face of the NBA? Some believe it's only a matter of time. Others argue he'll need a championship ring or multiple MVP trophies. Regardless, we're watching a story unfold that no one could have predicted, except maybe LaVar, who always claimed it was destiny. LaMelo Ball's road to the NBA has been anything but ordinary. He was the pint-sized kid launching half-court shots like they were routine layups, the teenage pro in the frozen corners of Lithuania, and the star attraction in a short-lived league his father built from scratch. Every chapter of his life bristled with drama. Some might say too much drama, but at the heart of it all was a young man who simply loved basketball so much that he never feared the spotlight, no matter how bright it burned. From Chino Hill's viral highlights to lighting up NBA arenas, Melo's story offers a daring template for future athletes who wonder if they can carve their own path outside conventional systems. He proved that extraordinary talent, relentless drive, and a dash of showmanship can still defy expectations, even if that path looks crazy on paper. Now, as he inches closer to his prime, the only question is how high he'll soar. Could he challenge the superstar stratosphere filled with legends like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant, or will injuries and team struggles hold him back from that apex?